In the late 1960s, Northern California was gripped by fear. A shadowy figure calling himself the Zodiac began a killing spree that would terrorize the Bay Area and leave behind one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in American history. The Zodiac's first known attack came on December 20, 1968. High school students Betty Lou Jensen and David Faraday were on their first date, parked along a quiet road near Vallejo, California. What began as a teenage romance ended in horror. A gunman approached their car and opened fire. David was shot in the head, Betty Lou in the back as she tried to flee. Both were killed instantly. Just 7 months later, on July 4, 1969, another couple was attacked near Blue Rock Springs Park. Darlene Ferrin and Michael Mageau were sitting in a car when a man walked up and fired multiple rounds. Darlene was killed. Michael survived despite severe injuries. Then came the phone call. Within an hour of the shooting, an anonymous man called police, claiming responsibility for both attacks. His voice was calm, almost emotionless. This was the moment the killer made himself known. But what set the Zodiac apart wasn't only the murders. It was the taunting. Soon, newspapers began receiving handwritten letters from the self-proclaimed Zodiac. The letters included chilling details only the killer could know, along with cryptograms coded messages filled with strange symbols. In August 1969, 3 major newspapers, the San Francisco Chronicle, the San Francisco Examiner, and the Vallejo Times-Herald each received a piece of a cryptogram, along with a demand: publish the letters on the front page, or more lives would be lost. The cryptogram was a 408-character puzzle. A California schoolteacher and his wife managed to crack it, revealing a disturbing message. The Zodiac claimed he killed for pleasure, describing murder as the most thrilling experience, and hinted that killing gave him a sense of control over his victim's fate. But the letter ended with a chilling line: the killer's true identity was hidden within the code. Even though the cipher was solved, the name never appeared. The Zodiac had introduced himself, and the nightmare was only beginning. On September 27, 1969, the Zodiac struck again. Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard were enjoying a quiet afternoon at Lake Berryessa, northeast of Napa. A man approached them wearing a bizarre hooded costume with a white crosshair symbol, the Zodiac's emblem, stitched onto the chest. He carried a gun and a knife, and claimed he had just escaped from prison. The attacker tied the couple up before brutally stabbing them. Cecilia was stabbed multiple times and died 2 days later. Brian, despite severe injuries, survived and was able to describe the strange outfit and chilling words of their attacker. The Zodiac left behind a message scrawled on Brian's car door in black marker, the dates of his previous murders, and the symbol of the crosshairs. It was his signature, a declaration that this was his work. Just 2 weeks later, on October 11, 1969, the Zodiac killed again in San Francisco. Cab driver Paul Stein picked up a fare in the city's theater district. The passenger requested to be taken to Presidio Heights. When they arrived, the writer pulled out a gun and shot Stein in the head. What set this murder apart was the boldness. The killer was seen by multiple witnesses, including children, as he wiped down the taxi and tore away a piece of Stein's bloody shirt. Police officers even passed him on the street but failed to stop him, a fateful mistake. Days later, the San Francisco Chronicle received another letter. Inside was the piece of Paul Stein's shirt, proving the writer was the killer. Once again, the Zodiac mocked the police, bragging about how easily he had escaped. He also continued to send cryptic ciphers. One included a threat to attack a school bus, claiming he would shoot out the tires and pick off the children as they came bouncing out. This terrifying warning forced authorities to guard school buses across the Bay Area, heightening the climate of fear. The Zodiac became more than a killer. He was a terrorist of the mind, feeding on the panic he caused. Each new letter was printed in newspapers, ensuring his words and his symbol dominated headlines. Law enforcement launched a massive manhunt. Dozens of detectives, hundreds of tips, and countless suspects were investigated. Yet the Zodiac always seemed one step ahead. His ability to strike without warning, vanish into the night, and taunt the public made him unlike any criminal America had ever faced. The killings, the ciphers, the threats all pointed to a murderer who craved attention as much as blood. But with each attack, the mystery of his identity only deepened. The hunt was far from over. As the Zodiac's reign of terror continued, police and amateur sleuths alike searched desperately for his identity. Over the years, hundreds of suspects were investigated. One name stood out above the rest. 星号 Arthur Leigh Allen 星号 A convicted child molester and Navy veteran, Allen lived in Vallejo, near the site of the early Zodiac murders. Friends claimed he once spoke about killing couples and using a flashlight on a gun, a detail known from the Blue Rock Springs attack. Police searched his home and found disturbing items, including weapons and bloody knives. Yet no definitive evidence ever linked him to the crimes. DNA and handwriting tests did not match. Allen died in 1992, without ever being charged, but Allen was far from the only suspect. Others included Richard Gaikowski, a journalist whose writing bore similarities to the Zodiac's letters, Lawrence Kane, a man with a criminal record and suspicious ties to the Bay Area, and even Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, though he was later ruled out. Despite decades of investigation, no one was ever confirmed as the Zodiac Killer. The mystery was deepened by the killer's ciphers. While the first code was solved, others remain unbroken or only partially decoded. The most famous of these is the 340 cipher, sent in 1969. For more than 50 years, it baffled experts until December 2020, when a team of amateur codebreakers finally cracked it. The message, though chilling, offered no name. Instead, the Zodiac mocked the police once again, boasting that he was not afraid of the gas chamber, because death would bring him a new life in paradise. Still, some ciphers remain unsolved. Hidden within them, many believe, could be the key to the Zodiac's true identity. Even as the killings seemed to stop in the 1970s, the Zodiac's presence never disappeared. His letters slowed, but the fear he generated left scars on an entire generation. The case inspired countless books, films, and even influenced other criminals who admired his notoriety. Today, more than 50 years later, the Zodiac case remains open. Law enforcement agencies, private detectives, and internet sleuths continue to pore over the evidence. Advances in DNA technology offer hope that one day the killer's identity may finally be revealed, but until then, the Zodiac Killer remains a shadow, a nameless figure who taunted a nation, murdered without mercy, and became one of the most infamous serial killers in American history. The hunt continues.